Take a rest.
Men, look alert. Halt! I said halt!
Mga Ginoo, pinaputukan ng mga Amerikano ang ating mga tauhan sa Santa Mesa.
Nilusob na rin nila ang San Juan, Paco at Pandacan, at iba pang karatig bayan. May kasunduan na rin sila sa mga Espanyol sa loob ng Intramuros.
Kuya Camino, Arquelles, bumagsak na ang Maynila. Nasa kamay na ng mga Amerikano ang lungsod.
Spain officially signed the Treaty of Paris in 1898, officially ending years of colonization in Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean, of which they seceded the Philippines and Cuba for $20 million. The United States Senate later ratified the decision in a vote. The U.S. Navy defeated the Spanish naval forces in the Battle of Manila Bay, later landing in Manila and later proclaiming the city under their control and hoisting the American flag and forming a civilian military government. The United States initially supported the Philippine revolutionaries in their cause for independence against Spain, but later broke its promise and later announced its plans for the Philippines to become an unincorporated U.S. territory, and later defeating Spain in the Spanish-American War. The great writer and poet Mark Twain, who was apparently an anti-imperialist, said of the war, and I quote, "I have read carefully the Treaty of Paris, and I have seen that we do not intend to free or subjugate the people of the Philippines. We have come to conquer, not to redeem." Unquote. On the 14th of December 1899, the same day the United States Congress was going to ratify the Treaty of Paris as official, Emilio Aguinaldo officially declared war on the United States. The Philippine Revolutionary Forces at the time were just newly formed. They were comprised of tribesmen, armed peasants, and some trained soldiers, but they were ready to take the fight to the Americans for independence. The largest engagement of the war took place at the Battle of Manila, in which 15,000 to 40,000 Filipino militiamen and irregular forces fought against the forces of the American Army, in which 55 American soldiers and 238 Filipino militiamen ended up dying, the first engagement of the war.
Wala pa ba, General Luna?
Wala pa.
Sino ba mumuno sa atin?
Si Komandante Reyes yata eh.
Pag dumating si...
President and General Emilio Aguinaldo decided to disband the regular Philippine Revolutionary Forces and initiate guerrilla warfare, making it harder for the Americans to see who is the combatants within the civilian population. But the war was not without its atrocities. The Americans, for example, United States Major General Jacob H. Smith gave an order that anyone above the age of 10 and who can hold a rifle be executed. I want no prisoners. I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the better it will please me. I want no persons who are actually capable of bearing arms against the United States. The Americans also forced the Filipinos to leave their homes and enter concentration camps. Many innocent civilians would die due to disease due to the lack of sanitation and the free fire zones in those concentration camps. In the words of one anonymous soldier from New York, again, I quote, "Last night, one of our boys was shot and found with his stomach cut open. Immediately, we had orders to burn the village and kill every native in sight." Philippine revolutionaries also retaliated against the American war crimes. In the words of United States Secretary of the Interior representing the Philippine Islands, Dean Worcester, quote, "One American prisoner had been buried in the ground with only his head projecting. His mouth had been propped open with a stick, and a trail of sugar had been laid through the forest, and a handful thrown into it. Millions of ants had done the rest." Ultimately, the fate and fall of the First Philippine Republic ended with the capture of Emilio Aguinaldo in Palanan, Isabela in 1901 by the forces of the Macabebe Scouts led by Frederick Funston. The president also took an oath officially recognizing the American presence in the Philippine Islands and ordered all revolutionaries and the last guerrilla fighters to surrender and lay down their arms to the Americans.
Sakripisyo ang buhay mo, Presidente. Mas kailangan ng Pilipinas!
Which one here is Aguinaldo? Why are these men blindfolded? These are officers, not ordinary prisoners. Untie them and take off their blindfolds.
General MacArthur, may I present to you Don Emilio Aguinaldo.
Don Emilio, it is an honor to meet you.
It's basically your plea to your people and to the others out there, asking them to lay down...
Aprendo español, Colonel Funston. I speak Spanish.
The last remnants of the Philippine Revolutionary Forces led by General Macario Sakay would end up surrendering on July 14, 1906 on the promise of amnesty. The Americans immediately broke their promise and hanged him for treason. The Philippines would be ended up occupied by the Americans for 33 years until they granted us Commonwealth status in 1935, and a man named Manuel Luis Quezon, Aguinaldo's former generals and one of his closest associates, was elected president. But the official signing of the Proclamation of Independence took place on July 4, 1946, the same day that President Manuel Rojas was sworn into office.
An administration in the Far East, when, after 48 years of American sovereignty, the men and women of the Philippines received their independence. Reduced to poverty after the Japanese occupation, the Philippines will receive reparations and free trade concessions from the United States. Manuel Roxas, newly elected to the presidency, takes the oath of office as a new era of prosperity dawns for the gallant people of the Philippines.